Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Dirty Birdy Kelly, yes, once again, you have found your way into the Fox Den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. This is the home and the stomping ground of the Midnight Society. Yet please, I am very hungry. Much better now that Dirty Birdy has released my shackles and set me free. It is time once again to hunt the infamous Dogman. So without further ado, it is time for the Midnight Society to take a walk into the darkness.
Blow, cracks, shadows morph, fangs, pierce, blazing born, fury rise, health ignites, burning rays, endless nights.
When I looked into the eyes of this Dogman, there was nothing. This thing was an apex predator.
Milk road, cracks, shadows morph, fangs, pierce, beast reborn, fury rise, health ignites, burning rays, endless nights.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Again, it is time for the Midnight Society to sit down and figure out what in the heck is occurring with missing people and strange canine sightings across the United States. Dirty Birdie is back in the house. How you doing tonight, Kelly?
I am doing well, my brother. You sent me something about a giant raccoon dog, and I was like, what? And I thought you were talking about the tanuki from Japan. And you're like, no. Talking about the actual giant raccoon that was wandering around the planet in the Pleistocene times. I was like, oh, okay. But then you got curious about Japanese folklore, so you're like, run with it. I'm like, all right.
That's awesome right there. Yeah, no, we've been trying to dive in with our science team. Like I said, just really trying to bring some more clarity as potentially what's occurring. And we definitely think that raccoons are playing a part in this as well. And that raccoon that existed at one point in time was the size of a Volkswagen. So, I mean, it's got the articulated hands and they're just so smart. And that would be definitely something very menacing to try to deal with. And also, the Amphicenoidae and the rest of the group of that collection of species were basically bear dogs, okay? And they broke off from canines, from bears, raccoons. They all broke off into their basically traditional species as today. And a lot of people don't realize raccoons are related to foxes and coyotes and such. And the indigenous cultures used to call them wandering bears and the bear with a long tail. So it's really intriguing. And I mean, again, it just shows at points in time there were large animals that resembled what is occurring with the Dogman. And same thing with the Amphicenoidae skeleton. If you look at the way it's set up, its hips definitely look very capable of standing upright if it wants to. And in the majority of the cases we have where we are able to see their movement patterns, they go from quadrupedal to bipedal. And I really want to get that out there to people that think that this thing is just completely bipedal. In my opinion, that's a crock of crap. It does not just walk around all the time up on two legs like you and I do. I mean, we have so many cases of it being quadrupedal, bipedal, back and forth. And sure, yes, some animals will stand upright sometimes, bears, squirrels, it doesn't matter, raccoons. But ultimately, I do not subscribe to the aspect of this being a fully bipedal animal, I think just like anything else, like baboons that are very capable of being bipedal, but they still enjoy being quadrupedal. So
Yeah, yeah. Baboons they're those things are terrifying just by themselves. I mean, you imagine? I don't know. Way back when, millions of years ago. I mean, a giant baboon. Get out of here! No, no, no. Just no.
yeah, that thing was enormous too, the Dinopithecus, anywhere between like 6 to 8, maybe 9 feet, depending, obviously. Just like with any other species, you're going to have larger versions, just like some German Shepherds are larger than other German Shepherds. But people in general don't realize the majority of the world is not 6 feet tall when it comes to men. Okay, in a lot of the cultures, 5'5", 5'6", especially a lot of the Asian cultures and over in India, people are a lot shorter. Okay, so the average male across the globe would in actuality be around the same size as a normal yellow baboon if it wants to stand upright. So when people are seeing things that are apes the size of people, it's really not that far-fetched. I think people are just thinking that they're going by the American statistic when someone's like, oh, it's the size of a person, meaning it has to be like 6+ feet tall. But I just stated, I mean, a lot of people over in those other cultures are like 5'5". Okay, so
Yeah. I live in how old is this house? 100-year-old house, and you can tell that it's 100-year-old house because the doorknobs, these are original doorknobs, original doors, and they are below my hip. So yeah, 100. I mean, even 60 years ago, people were shorter. So
yes.
oh,
So up in northern parts of Maine, there's an area where a lot of the French inhabitants had come in at points in time, and same thing. It's an older city that was created when the French were up there, and super tiny stairs, low ceilings, and everything. So yeah, it's really interesting.
well, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't. I'm thinking it's genetics and diet that we grew to be taller, and then that I don't know. That's it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a geneticist. I'm not a scientist, but I mean, my dad was 6'3" in 1968, and everybody else was um 5'9". So
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yep.
he was a giant. He was a giant, and he did football, he did basketball, he did all the sports, and he helped at my grandfather's mechanic shop. So when he wasn't lifting weights and running football, he was over there at my grandfather's shop picking up transmissions and moving them to and fro. And this dude was a solid mass of muscle.
Would make sense. I mean, it just all really boils down to, like I was saying, when people are talking about, using animals as resources like horses, etc. I mean, say if someone was able to get their hands on a giant raccoon or something along the lines of that, what potentially it could cause for a ruckus. And I'm going to tell you a really awesome story real quick. I can't fully remember. I believe it was someplace in Russia, and these soldiers had found a bear cub. They took it in and it basically grew up with them. But there was a point in time where they had to go off and fight for their country. So they were going to have to just basically get rid of this bear. And the soldiers didn't want to because he was part of the family. He used to love taking hot baths in the little bathroom. They had to lock the door actually because the bear would just go in there and sit in the hot water and use it all. And also he would smoke cigarettes, like drink beer, and like, basically was just a person. So they talked their
That's
commander
my kind of
into,
bear.
right? They talked their commander into allowing them to bring him on as an asset. And this bear would carry huge ammunition boxes during battle, huge weaponry and such. And he ended up surviving all that and then retired. And they ended up putting the bear into a zoo with some other bears. Well, apparently the other bears were too bear-like, and this one wasn't really about that. He didn't get along with them, so they had to put him in a separate enclosure. And all his soldier buddies would always come in and visit him and sneak him in like cigarettes and beer and stuff and hang out with him. So,
Oh, that's bro bear right there. Just
right. So it just shows you actually, the intellect of when something is, raised amongst a different group of individuals. It's no different than, your domesticated dog. Your domesticated dog looks at you as more of its family than, say, a wild wolf, even though the wolf is its lineage. So no different than that bear. It didn't look at the rest of the bears as bears anymore. It thought it was a human. So it's like, yo, get out of here.
yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Oh, can't. All right. So you can't put a domesticated animal back into the wild. It just won't work, because of the wild ones will be like, will make, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't like domesticated animals for the most part. There are some really interesting cases where, because German Shepherds, a lot of people don't realize, have a really close lineage with wolves, and they're actually one of the fastest domesticated animals to go back to being feral. Same thing with like pigs and such. And yeah, it's really interesting. But also, like you said, when something becomes domesticated, like the Nazis, I can't remember what forest it was, but one of their high up occult members had basically brought back this bull, and it was an ancient bull species that was strong, huge, so it could do a lot of pulling, food sources. But the problem is, it was lazy as heck. It never like would eat on its own. It wouldn't do anything. It would just stand there. So like, it shows you that it really is all just a product of your environment, because obviously out in the wild, that bull wouldn't have been able to act like that, or wouldn't have ever survived.
Well, yeah. In Australia, they have a real problem with scrub bulls. I think that's what they're called. It's cattle that get away from the original group and they go feral.
Mm-hmm.
That's 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 scary. I mean, imagine having a herd of cattle and you're like, all right, one's missing. Where is it? And you haven't seen it for a couple months, and you come across it, and it's feral. It's pissed. It wants to hurt you. I mean,
Yeah, that would be.
What were they called millions of years ago? Rocks, something like that. They are essentially cattle before they were cattle.
Yes, yes.
So yeah. Now
It's
imagine
bizarre too.
now imagine those in the Pleistocene era. Big old cattle. Big. Like that plains bison I sent the picture of the plains bison I sent you.
Yeah, gargantuous.
Oh. Yeah, imagine that thing all pissed off just to see your face.
It would be pretty terrifying for sure. And a lot of people, again, don't realize that predators don't really have the most energy to waste, because they need to use it as on their prey. But animals that are herbivores have a ton of energy, which actually makes them sometimes more dangerous, meaning the mountain lion might just run away from you. Whereas if you're, say, trying to free the deer from the fence or something, the deer could try to gorge you. It's just a very common thing for non-predator based animals to have a ton of energy. Like I said, because predators need to conceal that. A tiger is only active around, I believe, like 4 or 5 hours a day. Then it
Yeah.
sleeps the rest of the time.
Yep, it's all risk and reward. And I was having a conversation with a coworker the other day about, oh, well, horses aren't dangerous or something like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Oh, horses aren't as dangerous as a car. And I'm like, are you kidding me? A car
Horses
doesn't
are
just
insane,
get up.
baby.
A car just doesn't get up and get a hairput's ass and is like, I'm going to kick this dude in the face. It just doesn't. Horses do that.
It's funny you said that because my grandfather used to have a horse farm when I was growing up, and I don't know, man. I mean, I think horses are cool personally. On a funny note, if I was going to ride any sort of animal, I'd probably be riding a bear or a wolf, much cooler for me. But either way, when it comes to the horses, yeah, man, those things were dinks, dude. I'd go into the barn, dude. They would bite my hair, bite my clothing, just straight up dinks, man. And I don't know how many times they booted my gramps when he was trying to change their shoes, and I don't know, man. I'm just not the biggest fan of horses. They're cool and stuff, but I feel like they're super unpredictable.
Yeah, Colleen had that big. I don't know what breed it was, but Zephyr, big horse. She was telling me that they rode these horses into battle way back in Old English times. Those were the horses they rode in battle because they were huge, heavy, and would just raffle stomp anybody in their way. And I'm like, okay. She's like, oh, let's see. Oh, he's super gentle. He's super friendly. I'm like, nope. That thing will kick me in the face and my head will come off. No, thank you.
Yeah, no thanks there for sure, my friend. It's definitely really important to know animal behaviors and such. And how do you feel about that giant raccoon? Do you think potentially, I'm not exactly sure when it supposedly went extinct. I mean, obviously the short-faced cave bear, dire wolves, the Dinopithecus, all that stuff. Cave
Yeah.
hyenas 10,000, 11,000 years ago. So there's a high probability those are still kicking around, but I'm not really exactly sure supposedly when that raccoon went extinct, but it doesn't mean that it still couldn't have had relatives that could proceed into that size range.
Yeah, I was looking this up last night. This thing is like a little over 4 foot long and would stand up to your, I don't know, your hips, and it weighed 180 pounds. So yeah, if it wanted to, it would probably knock you down and eat you if it was hungry enough. I mean, like you said, way back in the day, we were way shorter than we are now. So yeah, yeah. So let's see. Let's guesstimate that. I don't know, millions of years ago. I'm 6 foot tall, so let's shorten that down to 2 feet. So I might be 4 feet tall. So this thing is a menacing little creature. Not little creature. Now it's a big creature. But you get what I'm saying. Like, way back in the day, man. I mean, millions of years ago. If you're a 4 foot 5 inches tall person thing wandering around out in the wild, I mean, everything's going to try to eat you. Like, don't get it twisted. I mean, everything's out there to try to survive, and you are a meal.
Would make sense. I mean, any sort of predator, like look at Africa, it's battle of the fittest right there. And just a funny example to show you how strong animals are. The other day, my squirrel ripped open my rainbow goldfish that I was, well, looking forward to obviously consuming, and came in and she was going to town. And, well, she had definitely had enough and it was time to go to bed. So I was trying to take away the rest that she had in front of her. She put her paw right on my finger and was like yanking it back. And you'd be surprised how much strength that she has.
Yeah. These, okay. We have little resistors in our brain that says if you do this, you're going to get hurt. So don't do that. But I'm not sure about animals' brains. Animals' brains is like, yeah, risk and reward. I'm going to yank and I'm going to get what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's very true. Thought that would be amusing and just kind of give a comparison as to the actual strength aspect. I mean, because like I said, she has a pretty good little yank force, man. I mean, obviously she loves me and wasn't trying to hurt me, but she wanted her goldfish and she didn't want to go to bed. So
Yeah. 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 So if people are like, well, people are like, yeah, we have strength and stuff like that. You do, but you don't. I mean, how many stories have we heard of a car accident and somebody picks up the back bumper and lifts it up? They couldn't do that before. Something like that. I mean, yeah, we got little resistors in our brains. Like stick your pinky in your mouth and try to bite it off. You can't. You can't.
you know how many
I
times I
mean,
almost chop my own finger off like an idiot sometimes when I'm like using a pair of scissors and I'm chopping up something and then I'm like, oh, that felt like it wasn't what I was chopping up. And yeah, that's a good thing. It didn't destroy my finger, but yeah, I might need that.
well, that's different. I mean, that's different because you don't know. I mean, you're just snipping away. You're snip, 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 and you're not paying attention. Whoop, and there goes the tip of your finger. I want you to put the tip of your pinky in your mouth and tell yourself to bite down hard.
Yeah, you
And
can only do so much. Yes, no, I know exactly that reaction because when I do some of my physical therapy stuff on myself, there's only a portion of how hard your body lets you push on it. You know what I mean? Whereas with other people can obviously apply more pressure and stuff. So yeah, that totally makes sense.
yeah, I just found it funny. Anyway, um, you wanted to do something about Dogman in Japan, right?
Yeah, to see some of your thoughts on that because I did recently cover some cases over from China and Japan, which is pretty cool because a lot of people think that it's just a North American or European thing, which it's not. And it was actually really interesting to be able to dive in and speak to some of those witnesses. So, yeah, no, if you have any sort of cool information before we do let you get back to your picnic and the rest of your day, yeah, for sure. I'm going to toss you the mic, my friend.
Okay, so I did a lot of digging last night, and I came across a story of I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, the Guhin, which translates to the dog guest. And these are not yokai. They are way below yokai. Yokai are demons of Japanese mythology. And what I came across, and it just rings of Bigfoot activity. So some of these stories are that you're walking through a forest, you'll hear mysterious laughter or the sound of crashing trees, or you might have pebbles thrown at you. And in a lot of Japanese mythology, when that happens, they're like, you have come across the Guin and you're in its territory. So you're not supposed to go over there because they can and will hurt you. Chinese, it's called the Angu or black dog. And yeah, I found that interesting. What I found interesting is the way it was spelled. And the Guin almost sounds like the Gugway, which I don't know. It could be a misidentification, but you know what the Gugway is?
Yes, I do know what the Gunway is. And I think that a lot of that stuff is actually probably all intertwined with each other to an extent, meaning when people see the baboon looking like Sasquatch, well, we have baboon like Dogmen. And I have noticed recently, like last night, Jessica and I were covering some topics, and here's one for you. So it was in the 1800s in Georgia, near the Florida line. It's been verified that this did occur, but Jessica was saying when she went down there and from the historical stuff that she researched that the locals said it was a giant, but then some other people said it was a Sasquatch, but then some of the people that I spoke to said it looked like a dog man that had done it to this group of hunters. So we know it happened, but was it a giant? Was it a Sasquatch or was it a dog man? And that's why I think a lot of times some of these cryptids encounters are potentially just being thrown in the same bucket together and like mixed up.
It, yeah, it could totally be misidentification. Yeah. I mean, looking at a baboon and looking at, you can pretty much tell a dog from a baboon. But if it's 6 feet tall and apparently wears robes like a man, yeah, it's going to be pretty scary to see. I mean, especially if you're not supposed to be on their mountain on their area, and they're literally knocking over trees and changing the weather and throwing pebbles. That sounds like Bigfoot activity to me.
Super interesting for sure. Yeah. And I do try to encourage people as well just to be careful thinking that just because something is thrown at you or breaks and branches, because we do have a lot of that recorded in dogman activity as well. And I just would encourage people, don't think necessarily you're walking out to meet a Sasquatch, because you could actually be walking to meet something completely different.
Yeah, I would caution anybody that goes into the woods, if they hear tree knocking or they get rocks thrown at them or vocalization, anything like that, just just turn around and go home. Just yeah, don't take chances. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to get that 4K footage, indisputable proof of a cryptid, but you got to consider at what cost. Now you can get that footage, and then it eats you and tosses that phone for nobody to find forever.
Yep. Isn't that the truth? That's like that hoax video I made, though. That's why I don't really take too much into images and such, just because, like I showed you, I mean, that wasn't even edited, and all I had to do was take the transparent stamp from a trail cam and put it on there. That's why I really dig more into like the audio and the footprints and such, because I'm an artist and I'm a graphics designer, and I know what can be accomplished with distortion in images. And that's why all those images have distortion to them to make it look like not clear. It's not good. I mean, the phones and things that we have today, no one takes a picture like that. It literally looks like someone's doing that on a cucumber. So it's on purpose, in my opinion.
Well, got to consider that nobody has their phone out of their pocket at any time. Most people don't, unless you're like a blogger or YouTuber or anything like that. You don't have your phone out to at any given time to capture these things, because like I've said before, your eyes go, what am I looking at? Is that what I think I see? And by the time you reach in your pocket and pull it out, it's gone. Or, God forbid, it's mauling you.
I definitely fully agree with that too. And I was actually talking with Jessica again about that. I think there has something to do with also our phones as well. I mean, just an example I'll give you is there's a cool jumping spider that's been around my room. I've tried to let him or her out numerous times, but has no interest in allowing me to do that. But the other day was posted up on my window, pulled out my phone, it's looking at me. As soon as I open my camera, the thing bolted. which leads me to believe potentially, yeah, our phones put off some sort of light that we can't necessarily see or something that caused it to spook. And same thing with the neighborhood animals. Now that they're comfortable with me, I can take their picture. But the first couple times, like some of the wild squirrels, they would just sit there and be like, what the heck? And just like be spooked, kind of.
Well, I think it's like a little, I don't know a little reactor in your pocket. It's dormant until you open it, you get it out of your pocket, and you flip it to the camera, and now it's active. So it's a little reactor. And then it sends out, I don't know. I'm not I'm not a scientist or whatever, but I believe that as soon as you pick it up and you pull it out and you flick it on and you put your passcode in to turn it on, then it becomes on and it sends out a frequency of some sort and says, "Hey, I'm on." And these creatures pick it up and they're like, "Yep, bye." And it's just like that.
Would make sense right there for sure. And I just thought maybe potentially you would find that intriguing just because I'm always trying to do some of my own experimentations as much as possible on topics and just trying to figure out like what it is, potentially that could be occurring. And I literally just happened to notice that. And I was just like, there's no way something did just occur that spooked that little spider because he or she was just sitting there the whole time until I turned the camera on. Then it was like, boom, bye.
Yeah. I think it's some kind of vibration or radiation or something that would kick on our camera, kick on our phone or something like that, and they know, and they're just like, yep, I can feel that, and they're gone.
That would make sense. I mean, it is a proven fact. Obviously, our phones and things give off, unfortunately, radiation, and we're not really supposed to. I mean, I sleep with my phone in my damn bed beside me all the time. I put it on Do Not Disturb, but I mean, it's still putting out, like you said, transparency waves, picking up on connections, all that stuff. So it definitely would make sense, but I just found it to be pretty interesting and intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, just recently I put on an app for my phone because of where I work. People lose a lot of headphones and whatnot, and there's a little app called Wonderfind, and it can find Wi-Fi. So if you lose a headphone or something like that, and it's on, and you turn on Wonderfind, you can find it. It'll literally lead you to the lost object. Other one I did was a metal detector, and surprisingly enough, it works. So, I mean, if you, like you said, I mean, I think that, yeah, you can see one of these creatures and they're doing their thing, and as soon as you whip it out and turn it on, it sends out some kind of wavelength or a signal or something like that, and they pick it up and they're like, nope, and they're gone.
That would make a ton of sense right there, my friend, for sure. And I'm just so like hit or miss with that because it stinks because I want to believe some of the images, like I said, that people do send in. But I don't know how many times I've just been able to debunk a bunch of those and such. So, it does totally make sense, like you said, with a clarity aspect. But I just feel like people really should stop trying to put out the hoaxes because AI still looks like AI. It looks like absolute trash, in my opinion. And I don't know what it is, dude. People are just sold on hot garbage, it seems like. So it is always good to get you to pop in, man, and sit down and nerd out because you always bring some really good information and also have a really good mindset and mind frame as to potentially what's occurring. Because as I've said before, I try to be as scientific based as possible. And a lot of my really good friends and such, subscribe to some stuff that I don't necessarily fully subscribe to. I am always open and always willing to listen to people. And my job as a journalist is not to state my opinion unless I'm asked. It's just to gain facts and evidence and put it together into the narrative that looks to be what is occurring. But obviously, as a journalist, I'm supposed to have an opinion. So when asked, I do, speak. But at the end of the day, yeah, I appreciate you, man. And it's definitely great to sit down and link up. And I look forward to our future collaborations, man.
Yeah, I do too. I really enjoy talking with you, man.
Same, bro. I'm glad you're part of my team, man. And also, if you ever do, like I said, want to officially join the North American Dogman Project, nothing would really change in regards of, I mean, I can obviously talk to you about everything. I have a ton of information, but if you ever did join us, you would get access to all kinds of other members and also information. And I could send you cases that are actually out in your neck of the woods that you would be able to reach out to individuals. So yeah, if it's something you're ever interested in, man, just let me know. And if you are, toss me your email and I can send you the paperwork and you just, literally sign it and take pictures of it and send it back, man.
Ooh, yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And remember, massacres make the dream work or something like that.